Welcome to Light True Crime. This is a follow-up on clarifying information from the Kroy Biermann case. So let's get into it. I will get into this image shortly, and I will also share it in the comments. But basically, I cannot share these court documents behind me like I typically do because of so much information that identifies the victim, and I'm not going to do that. However, I was able to take the data from the report of the victim's statements and then take the data where the detective got information from the surveillance video and do it side by side and has the comparison of what matches and everything. Okay, so that way it's not as confusing for some people to try to absorb, and hopefully that will help clarify some things. And just a quick reminder, we are able to talk about this case that involves a minor as the defendant because on August 18th, this is where a court appearance happened and the court heard evidence and found probable cause on the two charges that KJ is facing. And they then committed it to Superior Court, which is why this is being handled in adult court. So here's that full proof of that occurring. And the next part that I want to clarify is in relation to the DNA statements that are made. And this is a direct quote, and I'm going to put a little what it looks like from the actual document. Again, I can't show you that whole document, but here's a snippet of what the document looks like. And then I just took the direct information and put it here so you can see what it says. And this is exactly what the detective said. On May 3rd, 2026, I received results back from the GBI. Again, that's the Georgia Bureau of Investigation. Goes on to say in the results were concurrent with the statements received from the victim. In the again, lower area that they describe above, there's no presence of male DNA. And as for the oral cavity swabs, they also failed to reveal the presence of DNA. So yes, Kim made a statement reiterating again that no DNA was found, however, decided to neglect the statement that says the results from the kit because more than DNA is pulled from one of those kits being done, which I also want to remind people that this is a child going through one of these kits, which is a pretty traumatizing thing to go through after the trauma you already just went through the day prior. And it says the results were concurrent with the statements received from the victim. So we can pick and choose what we want from the report, but that is what the report actually says in the public court records. And I'm also going to clarify about the timeline of when this kit was performed and what happened. I see some misinformation out there. Again, I cannot share this, but I'm going to pull information from what was stated from the victim to the detective that correlates with what happened kind of after. After the victim left the whole changing room situation, it does say that the victim texted her grandmother to pick her up. And it does go on to say that the victim didn't want to attend school the next day, but ended up going. While at school, she ran into an individual who is the common friend of KJ. And that is when she decided to walk to Starbucks to get away. Now, while the victim was at Starbucks, she received a text from her family because the school had reported her absent from class. When her grandmother picked her up from school, she took her phone because she had skipped class earlier. So kind of like, a little consequence. The grandmother at that point did not know anything that occurred. It is then that the victim stated she was supposed to also work that day, but began to have a panic attack. And that was when she decided to tell her grandmother what happened the previous day. They then called the victim's mother, who, as I stated before, was out of town. They also contacted the victim's stepmother, who notified the victim's father, and the father met his daughter at the hospital with her grandmother. That point at the hospital is when the assault kit was completed. There's, again, some other further details in this complaint where the victim speaks to the detective that I'm not going to go into, but it was kind of covered in the affidavit. And another line item that was not in the affidavit but was in this complaint here said that KJ told her it wasn't a big deal because he knew she was on birth control. So that's something that wasn't in the affidavit that, was in the initial complaint. There are very specific details given in the report. It is not anything that is, a general recollection. Also, on May 4th, a forensic interview was conducted at the Georgia Center for Child Advocacy in DeKalb, Georgia, by an interviewer. So there's a separate forensic interview that occurred, and that is withheld right now from public court documents, but that would have been additional piece of evidence that was given before the court, which would have been presented with the additional probable cause information and any other evidence on that August 18th date. Now, it was on May 14th, 2026, that the detective began reaching out to Kroy Biermann, the father of KJ. And the detective says, I spoke with him on May 18th, 2026, where he stated that he would talk to KJ's mother and make a decision about me talking with KJ about the incident. Now, the next follow-up on their communication with KJ and his parents goes to June 24th. On June 24th, 2026, I received a call from KJ's attorney, Jason Sheffield, notifying me that he had taken the case. At this time, there is nothing in the actual public court documents saying that KJ did a lie detector test with specifically the detectives on this case from law enforcement. I can say that the speculation and presumption from people, okay, I want to make clear, I like to present facts and then separate what we think we know. The speculation and presumption that Kim mentions he took a lie detector test is there's a presumption that they did that privately with their lawyer as something to present in the case, which many know and many may not, but those tests are not admissible in a court of law. So yeah, that's going to break it down. I will put this in the comments. I will say I want to give a small speculation on the first line item here. And also at this day, they were able to get when the victim swiped into the gym. And I've seen people say that this gym was at the school. This is not a gym at the school either. This is an individual private gym. It's Lifetime Fitness. It's not related to a school at all. Moving on, they have a swipe in from the victim, but KJ did not swipe into the gym. So they didn't have that, but they were able to, again, look at surveillance to go over everything and compare it. Now, the one thing that has probably the biggest mismatch happens to just be the estimated arrival. And the victim had said that she arrived around 3:30 to 3:45 p.m. for what she thought was her chiropractic appointment. And the discrepancy there was that the video shows her arriving at 3:13 p.m. And I just want to give a call out there for, again, this is going to be my speculation purely on that, is we're also talking about a child who went through a traumatic event, recurring everything. And, you know, the time she got there, she most likely was referencing the time that she was probably getting there for the chiropractic appointment and not necessarily thinking of like a swipe in time. That's just something of my thoughts, because the surveillance, you know, the comparison is that it shows arrival about 17 to 32 minutes earlier than her estimated time. But, you know, she had estimated the time, and the focus was that she initially was going there for a chiropractic appointment. Other than that, again, it's the details of what the victim stated to detectives prior to them even looking at surveillance video match up with everything that she gave to detectives. So that's what I wanted to just update on and try to fix some misinformation that is out there. Again, I like to work with facts, the court documents, and what's actually given to us to present to them. I just want to reiterate that everyone is innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. These are all allegations at this time, and we will watch this case as it proceeds. There's a hearing coming up in the beginning of September. But thank you so much for tuning into The Light True Crime. Remember to stay safe, be kind to one another. Do not reach out to anybody involved in this case at all. And I will see you all in the next one.